The Great Pyramid of Giza holds a secret language in its very stones. Ancient monuments across the globe are not merely ruins. They are complex mathematical manuscripts waiting to be read. This journey will completely reshape your understanding of human history. By the end, you will see these iconic structures not as silent relics, but as brilliant, intentional calculations left by their builders. How did cultures separated by oceans and millennia embed the same precise numbers into their grandest creations? And what profound knowledge were they trying to preserve for the future? What does it say about us that we are only now learning to listen to their whispers? Mathematics is a language that speaks without words, a silent code understood across oceans and centuries. Just as a melody can evoke the same feeling in people who speak different tongues, numbers like pi and the golden ratio communicate fundamental truths about our world. Pi, the constant you get when you divide a circle's circumference by its diameter, is approximately 3.14159. It appears in the swirling arms of galaxies and the perfect curve of a nautilus shell. The golden ratio, roughly 1.618, is a proportion so aesthetically pleasing it shows up in Renaissance art, the arrangement of sunflower seeds, and the spiral of a hurricane. These are not just abstract ideas, they are the building blocks of reality, and our ancestors seem to have known this intimately. What is truly astonishing is how cultures with no apparent contact repeatedly embedded these same constants into their most sacred architecture. Did a common, intuitive understanding of geometry arise independently in the human mind, or were these builders tapping into a universal design principle, a fundamental blueprint for creation itself? Scholars like mathematician Mario Livio point to the inescapable presence of these ratios in nature, suggesting that early architects may have simply been mimicking the patterns they observed in the world around them, translating the logic of life into stone. This shared mathematical foundation hints at a sophistication we are only beginning to appreciate. To see this principle in its most breathtaking form, we must now turn our gaze to the sands of Egypt and the enduring riddle of the Great Pyramid. The sheer scale of the Great Pyramid can obscure its most profound feature, its mathematical perfection. Its base forms a near-perfect square, with sides aligned almost exactly to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. The error in its orientation to true north is astonishingly small, less than a 15th of a single degree. This suggests its builders possessed not just architectural skill, but a deep understanding of the Earth's rotation and the cosmos above. But the real magic is found in the ratios woven into its form. If you take the pyramid's original perimeter and divide it by twice its height, you get a number incredibly close to pi, approximately 3.14159. This is not a vague suggestion. It is a precise geometric statement encoded in stone, a representation of a circle's fundamental property within a square-based structure. The golden ratio phi appears with similar intention. The dimensions of the king's chamber and the overall proportions of the pyramid's faces consistently reflect this divine proportion, roughly 1.618. Some researchers, like John Taylor in the 19th century, noted that the pyramid's height seems to have a specific relationship to the radius of the Earth, while its perimeter corresponds symbolically to the planet's circumference. Even the unit of measurement used, the royal cubit, appears to be a carefully chosen fraction of the Earth's polar radius. This has led to theories that the pyramid was designed as a scale model of the Northern Hemisphere, a monumental globe built from limestone and granite. Was every dimension a deliberate choice, a way to preserve advanced geodetic and astronomical knowledge for future generations? The precision here is so great that it challenges our entire timeline of mathematical discovery, pushing back the known origins of such sophisticated geometry by thousands of years. And as we will see, this story of encoded knowledge was not unique to the sands of Egypt. An ocean away, in the dense jungles of the Americas, another civilization was building its own mathematical testament to the heavens. Across the Atlantic, the sprawling city of Teotihuacan rises from the Mexican highlands with a different kind of precision. Here, the Avenue of the Dead cuts a straight path through the ancient metropolis, flanked by the colossal Pyramid of the Sun and the elegant Pyramid of the Moon. Walking this avenue, you are not just moving through a city, you are traversing a celestial map. The entire urban layout is a deliberate reflection of the cosmos above, with its main structures aligned not just to the sun, but to specific star clusters like the Pleiades. This was not random urban planning, it was architecture as astronomy. Archaeologists like Saburo Sugiyama have uncovered compelling evidence of this intentional design, suggesting the builders were encoding their understanding of time and space into the very ground on which they walk. They used a consistent unit of measurement, now called the standard Teotihuacan unit, which appears repeatedly in the dimensions of temples and platforms. This unit, roughly 83 centimeters, seems to create harmonic proportions throughout the city, a rhythmic echo of mathematical order. Look at the Pyramid of the Sun itself. Its base perimeter is a staggering number, approximately equal to the number of days in a solar year. Its height and the angles of its stairways create relationships that whisper of the golden mean, that same divine proportion found in Giza. Why would a civilization go to such extraordinary lengths? Were these mathematical encodings purely for ritual, a way to harmonize human life with the cycles of the universe? Or were they a practical form of knowledge preservation, a durable library written in stone and earth? The patterns here are too clear, too consistent to be accidental. They speak of a deep, cross-cultural obsession with mirroring the heavens on Earth, and as we will see, this obsession was not confined to the Americas or Egypt. It appears again with startling clarity in the misty highlands of another continent, where a culture built a stone calendar that perfectly captures the dance between our planet and the sun. The rolling green of Salisbury Plain holds a different kind of secret, one written not in the language of pi or phi, but in the silent, patient movements of the moon. Stonehenge stands as a monument to celestial timekeeping, a ring of massive stones that functions as a colossal astronomical computer. Its builders arranged the Sarsen circle and the smaller blue stones with a precision that seems to predict the solstices and even the more complex cycles of lunar eclipses. One of the most compelling clues lies in a circle of pits surrounding the monument, known as the Aubrey Holes. Researchers, including astronomer Gerald Hawkins, proposed that these 56 pits were not merely for burial or ritual, but could be used as a simple yet powerful counting system to track the 18.61-year cycle of the moon, allowing the prediction of eclipses. Moving just one marker from hole to hole each year would signal when the moon was likely to be swallowed by the Earth's shadow. This implies a deep, long-term observation of the heavens, a project spanning generations. But the geometry goes even deeper. The angles formed between specific stones create perfect right-angled triangles, built using sets of whole numbers known as Pythagorean triples. These are the same 3, 4, 5 triangles taught in classrooms today, yet they were being laid out in stone over 4,000 years ago, long before the Greek philosopher Pythagoras was born. How could this be? Was this knowledge discovered independently, a natural outcome of working with ropes and stakes to create perfect perpendicular lines, or does it point to a shared, perhaps even older, geometric tradition? The consistency is staggering. Alexander Thom, an engineer who surveyed hundreds of stone circles, proposed the existence of a standardized megalithic yard, a unit of measurement used across prehistoric Britain. The diameters of the Sarsen circle and other features at Stonehenge seem to be built in multiples of this unit, suggesting a society with a unified system of measurement and a sophisticated grasp of practical geometry. The most visible proof of this celestial alignment happens every year at dawn on the summer solstice. As the sun crests the horizon, its first rays shine directly through the monument's entrance and align perfectly with the outlying heelstone, flooding the central altar with light. Was this spectacle purely for spiritual ceremony, a way to honor the sun's power, or was it the ultimate calibration check for a complex astronomical machine? The answer likely lies in both. For these ancient builders, mathematics, astronomy, and spirituality were not separate subjects, but interconnected strands of a single, profound understanding of a harmonious universe. This same drive to geometrically order the world would find another breathtaking expression far to the east, in the dense jungles of Cambodia. Deep within the Cambodian jungle, the stone lotus of Angkor Wat blooms in a symphony of sacred geometry. Its vast moats and soaring towers are far more than an architectural marvel. They are a conscious recreation of the Hindu cosmos, built to precise mathematical specifications. The entire complex is a map of the universe, with its central tower representing Mount Meru, the mythological axis of the world, surrounded by smaller peaks and a vast ocean represented by the enclosing moat. This cosmological vision is brought to life through the relentless application of the golden ratio. The proportions of the central sanctuary, the spacing of the surrounding galleries, and even the recursive scaling of the entire layout all echo the divine proportion of approximately 1.618. It is as if the builders used a single harmonious key to compose their stone symphony. Historian Elena Manica's detailed surveys of the temple revealed something even more profound. The dimensions of the galleries and courtyards correspond directly to the cycles of time in Hindu cosmology, including the four great ages known as the yugas. The distances between certain structures, when measured in the local unit known as the Khmer cubit, yield numbers that mirror the durations of these cosmic eras. This suggests the temple was not just a static symbol, but a functioning clock on a mythological scale, its very stones counting the breaths of the gods. This mathematical intent is visible in the very elements meant to stabilize the structure. The massive outer moat and the concentric enclosures are not merely defensive. Their widths and the ratios between them create a fractal-like pattern, a series of nested harmonic spaces that draws the visitor inward toward the spiritual center, mirroring the order of the celestial realms. Even the sun was enlisted as part of the design. During the equinoxes, the rising sun aligns with the central tower in such a way that its shadow falls with perfect symmetry, a transient geometric proof enacted by the heavens themselves. Was this intricate encoding purely for spiritual transcendence, a way to elevate the human soul by placing it within a perfect cosmic diagram? Or did the precise ratios also serve a more earthly purpose, ensuring the incredible structural integrity that has allowed the temple to stand for nearly a millennium? The answer is likely both, revealing a worldview where spiritual truth and mathematical truth were one and the same. This global pattern of building the cosmos into the landscape did not end in Asia. Far across the Pacific, in the high Andes, another empire was carving its own astronomical and mathematical principles into the very flesh of a mountain. High on a razorback ridge in the Andes, Machu Picchu defies gravity itself. This is not a city imposed upon the mountain, but one woven into its very fabric through a masterful understanding of mathematics and geology. The Incas engineered a world of perfect proportion and resilience, where every wall and terrace was a calculated dialogue with the powerful landscape. They built with a profound awareness of the forces that shape our world, from the shifting earth to the path of the sun. Their primary tool was the trapezoid, a shape that appears everywhere from doorways and windows to the grandest ceremonial niches. This was far more than an aesthetic choice. The trapezoidal form is inherently stable, distributing stress and allowing structures to sway and settle without collapsing during the frequent earthquakes that ripple through the Andes. It is a shape born of necessity, yet it also reflects a sacred geometry, a physical expression of a worldview that connected the earthly realm with the celestial one. Researchers like Johann Reinhardt have emphasized how the entire site is a reflection of Inca cosmology, a sacred landscape where mountains were living deities. To build here required not just engineering skill, but a reverent mathematical precision. How did they achieve such seamless integration? They likely used a system of measurement based on the human body, units like the Thatke, or the distance from a man's outstretched fingertips to his chest, creating an architecture that was fundamentally human in scale. This proportional harmony is most spectacularly visible in the Temple of the Sun. Its curved, seamless stonework contains a window perfectly oriented so that the first rays of the June solstice sun fall directly upon a ceremonial stone inside, marking the sun's rebirth with unerring accuracy. This was a city that kept time with the heavens. The Teotihuacan stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, is perhaps the ultimate symbol of this. Its precise angles and carved planes are believed to function as an astronomical clock, its shadows marking the equinoxes and solstices, effectively tying the sun to the earth in a symbolic and calculable bond. Was this intricate mathematics purely for survival, a practical response to a volatile environment, or was it a spiritual technology for connecting with Pachamama, the Earth Mother? The water channels that still flow through the city today suggest the answer is both. The Incas designed a gravity-fed water system of breathtaking sophistication, calculating slopes and angles with such precision that the flow remains constant and powerful, a liquid expression of their understanding of physics. Every element, from the earthquake-resistant walls to the solstice-aligned temples, reveals a culture that saw no division between the practical and the sacred, the mathematical and the spiritual. They built a world in perfect balance, a testament to human ingenuity harmonizing with nature's laws. This same drive to navigate and encode the natural world would soon propel other cultures across the vast, empty expanse of the Pacific Ocean, using nothing but the stars and their own profound mathematical intuition. The silent gaze of the Moai statues holds a secret written in the language of the land itself. On the most remote inhabited island on Earth, these colossal stone faces are not randomly scattered sentinels. They are precisely placed elements of a grand, island-wide design, a geospatial code etched into the coastline. Each statue, or moai, was erected on a stone platform known as an ahu, and the placement of these ahu appears to be a deliberate act of mathematical and astronomical planning. Researchers like Carl Lipo have proposed that these monuments were not just religious icons, but sophisticated markers, possibly denoting the boundaries of clan territories or, more vitally, pointing toward precious freshwater sources. Certain statues, for instance, are positioned to face inland, their backs to the sea, their sightless eyes fixed directly upon seeps and coastal aquifers. In an environment where survival depended on managing scarce resources, this was a form of brilliant, practical communication, a stone map for community cohesion. But the coding goes deeper than simple location. The proportions of the statues themselves whisper of advanced geometric understanding. The classic elongated head and strong brow of a Moai often conform to the golden ratio, with the relationship between the head and the torso approximating that divine proportion of 1.618. This was not an accident of style, but a conscious application of a harmonic principle, embedding a universal constant into the very form of their ancestors. The engineering required to bring these multi-ton figures from the quarry to their coastal platforms across miles of rugged terrain is a mathematical puzzle in its own right. The prevailing theory suggests a rocking, walking motion, a carefully calculated process of leverage and rhythm that turned the impossible into a communal achievement. The Ahu platforms themselves reveal another layer of this knowledge. Their construction often follows strict geometric patterns, with alignments that correspond to the rising and setting points of the sun during the solstices. This suggests the Rapa Nui people were not just mapping their island, but also charting the heavens, using their monuments as a stable reference for both earthly navigation and celestial time. Was this intricate system a way for the living to communicate with their deified ancestors, or was it a durable, stone-based system for environmental management, ensuring the community's survival through a shared mathematical language? The Moai stand as a powerful testament to math as a tool for unity, a means of weaving a society into the very fabric of its landscape. This same drive to build in harmony with the elements, even when those elements are overwhelming, leads our search into a far more fluid and mysterious realm, the world beneath the waves. Beneath the clear, blue waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, the ocean floor holds a mystery that challenges everything we think we know about ancient history. A colossal formation known as the Yonaguni Monument rises from the seabed like a sunken city. Its sheer cliffs are carved with what appear to be perfect right angles, sharp-edged terraces, and long, parallel channels that stretch across the rock face. It looks like a grand, stepped pyramid, a structure that wouldn't be out of place in the deserts of Mesopotamia. This discovery forces a single, profound question upon us. Are we looking at the handiwork of a lost civilization? Or is this simply a masterpiece of natural geology, a random sculpture shaped by millennia of powerful ocean currents? The debate centers on the monument's uncanny geometry. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura has spent years studying the site, and he points to features that seem to defy natural explanation. There are two massive, monolithic pillars that appear placed to prevent the ceiling from collapsing in a specific chamber. There are star-shaped patterns carved into the rock and a triangular pool with perfectly straight sides. Most striking are the two huge, rectangular platforms that form a wide, open terrace, resembling the man-made ziggurats of ancient Sumer. The angles between the monument's terraces and its vertical faces are often precisely 90 degrees, a regularity that nature rarely produces with such consistency. When researchers use sonar mapping to analyze its proportions, they find relationships between its dimensions that intriguingly echo mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio. Could these ratios be the accidental byproduct of fracturing rock, or are they the faded signature of its builders? Skeptics like geologist Robert Schoch offer a compelling counter-argument. They suggest that the sandstone in this region is naturally fractured along planes and joints, and that the powerful currents around Yonaguni have simply eroded these fractures over thousands of years, creating the illusion of carved steps and right angles. They argue that what we perceive as parallel walls and symmetrical platforms are just the predictable results of natural weathering on a massive scale. For them, the monument is a beautiful geological fluke, not an archaeological site. Yet, the possibility of human intention is hard to dismiss entirely. Some of the structures show alignments that correspond to magnetic north, while others seem oriented toward the rising sun on the solstices. This level of celestial alignment is a hallmark of sacred sites worldwide. If this is a natural formation, it is one of the most conveniently and symbolically shaped ones ever discovered. The monument rests in waters that were above sea level during the last ice age, potentially placing its creation, if it is artificial, at a time when human civilization was supposedly far more primitive. Does Yonaguni represent the ruins of a sophisticated prehistoric seafaring culture, one that mastered stone working and mathematics only to be swallowed by the rising seas? The evidence lies in a gray area, a place where the line between nature's art and human genius becomes beautifully, frustratingly blurred. This enigma pushes us to look for even earlier hints of human calculation, to a time before pyramids, before ziggurats, to the very dawn of monumental construction itself. Göbekli Tepe shatters the timeline of human achievement. Nestled on a Turkish hilltop, this sprawling complex of carved stone circles was erected over 11,000 years ago, a staggering 7 millennia before the Great Pyramid. Its builders were not settled farmers but hunter-gatherers, people we once believed were incapable of such grand, coordinated work. Here, massive T-shaped pillars, some weighing more than 10 tons, are arranged with a deliberate symmetry that speaks of an early, intuitive grasp of geometry. The enclosures are not haphazard. They form near-perfect circles and ovals, their layouts repeating a consistent design across the entire site. This suggests the builders were using a standardized unit of measurement, a prehistoric yardstick that allowed them to replicate these complex patterns generation after generation. The proportions between the central pillars and the surrounding rings create harmonic spaces, their dimensions possibly reflecting the cyclical rhythms of the world they observed. Archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, who led the excavations, saw Göbekli Tepe not as a village, but as the world's first temple, a place that required a shared mathematical language to bring its vision to life. But what knowledge were they encoding in this stone calendar? Look closely at the pillars themselves. They are not blank monoliths. They are covered in a menagerie of carved animals, foxes, scorpions, vultures, and boars. These are more than just artistic expressions. The specific counts of these animals, their positions on certain pillars, and their relationships to each other might have served as a primitive numbering system. A group of 3 cranes could represent a quantity, a concept, or even a point in time. The arrangement of the enclosures themselves provides another clue. Some of the structures appear to be aligned with the solstice sunrises, their openings capturing the first light on the longest day of the year. This celestial connection hints at a deep awareness of astronomical cycles. Even more profound is the suggestion that the slow, grand wobble of the Earth's axis, known as precession, which takes 26,000 years to complete, might be hinted at in the ratios between the pillars and their spacings. Could these hunter-gatherers, through patient, long-term observation, have detected this subtle dance of the heavens and chosen to memorialize it in stone? The very existence of Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider the origins of mathematics. Did this sophisticated geometry emerge organically from the needs of a hunter-gatherer society to mark time, track stars, and organize large-scale ritual construction? Or does it point to a forgotten chapter in human history, a lost seed of knowledge that would later blossom in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and beyond? The stones do not give easy answers, but their silent, geometric order whispers of a cognitive revolution far earlier than we ever imagined. This ancient drive to impose mathematical order on the world would soon find its ultimate expression, not in isolated temples, but in the planned hearts of the world's first great cities. These geometric patterns are not confined to any single monument or culture. They form a universal visual language known as sacred geometry, a system where simple shapes encode profound mathematical ideals of harmony and creation. One of the most fundamental of these shapes is the vesica piscis. Imagine two circles of the same size, overlapping so that the center of each lies on the other's circumference. The almond shape formed in the middle is the vesica piscis. This simple intersection is a geometric powerhouse. It generates the square root of 3 and other fundamental ratios, and its proportions were seen by ancient geometers as the first moment of creation, the womb from which all other forms emerge. You find this shape framing the figure of Christ in medieval Christian art, symbolizing divine light. You see it repeated in the ground plans of Hindu temples, where it governs the proportions of the inner sanctum, creating a space of perfect balance. It is the same shape that appears in the overlapping circles of a Venn diagram, a universal symbol for the place where two different worlds meet and create something new. From this one foundational form, more complex patterns unfold. The flower of life is a mesmerizing design of multiple, evenly spaced, overlapping circles that form a symmetrical, flower-like pattern. This symbol appears etched into the stone of the Temple of Osiris at Abydos in Egypt, and it is found in art from China to Ireland. What makes it so compelling is that within its intricate lattice, you can derive nearly every other important shape in sacred geometry, from the Platonic solids to the golden spiral. It was considered a blueprint for reality itself, a two-dimensional map of how energy constructs form. Geometer Robert Lawler described it as an image of the moment of creation, a snapshot of the universe expanding from a single source. This same drive to represent cosmic order appears in the mandalas of Buddhist and Hindu traditions. A mandala is far more than a beautiful circular drawing. It is a precise mathematical diagram of the cosmos, built from concentric circles and squares. Creating one is a meditative act, a process of constructing the universe from the center outward, using fixed ratios and proportions. The most famous of these, the Sri Yantra, is a stunningly complex arrangement of 9 interlocking triangles that radiate from a central point. The precision required to draw it is immense, as the triangles must intersect perfectly to form 43 smaller triangles, all embodying the interplay of divine masculine and feminine energies. To gaze upon a completed mandala is to look at a map of consciousness, a geometric path to enlightenment. Why did cultures across the globe invest such effort in these patterns? They were not merely decorating, they were using geometry as a spiritual technology, a way to align the human mind and sacred space with the underlying mathematical order of the universe. This language of shapes provided the foundational blueprint for entire cities, transforming urban planning into an act of cosmic mirroring. The stone walls of Great Zimbabwe curve against the African sky in a silent symphony of proportion and scale. This sprawling complex, built entirely without mortar, stands as a testament to a sophisticated African understanding of mathematics and engineering. Its massive, freestanding walls were constructed using granite blocks cut into standardized sizes, a decision that required forethought and a unified system of measurement. The builders employed a brilliant technique, laying the stones in courses that gently incline inward as the walls rise. This creates a stable, self-supporting structure that has withstood centuries, a physical manifestation of precise angle calculation and an intuitive grasp of physics. The most iconic structure, the Great Enclosure, is defined by its magnificent elliptical wall. This vast, curved space is not a random shape. Its elegant form may have been a geometric representation of the lunar cycle, or perhaps a symbolic map of social hierarchy. with its concentric patterns guiding movement from public outer courts to the sacred inner sanctums. Historian Peter Garlick has emphasized how this mathematical precision was the foundation of a thriving trade empire, enabling the organization and wealth that connected southern Africa to distant shores across the Indian Ocean. The encodings continue in the details. Look at the decorative chevron patterns running along some of the walls. These are not mere ornamentation. They are early fractal designs, repeating the same angular motif at different scales, a conscious play with geometric recursion. Within the great enclosure stands the mysterious conical tower, a solid structure whose precise proportions are believed to echo spiritual beliefs, its form possibly symbolizing a grain silo and thus representing abundance and royal authority. But the mathematical planning may have extended to the very senses. Certain enclosed areas and passageways possess unique acoustic properties, where sound carries or is muted in specific ways. Could the builders have designed these spaces using harmonic ratios, creating environments where the human voice would resonate with particular power during ceremonies or communal gatherings? Was the primary purpose of this geometric masterpiece defense, a display of prestige, or a functioning observatory? Some alignments of walls and openings correspond with the rising and setting of bright celestial bodies like Venus, suggesting the heavens were very much a part of the architectural blueprint. Great Zimbabwe forces us to expand our view of ancient mathematics, showcasing a uniquely African contribution to this global language of stone. This sophisticated use of proportion and planning finds a fascinating parallel, though born of a different time and worldview, in the stone circles and megalithic tombs of prehistoric Europe. The Carnac stones march across the French countryside in silent, regimented lines, a sprawling army of granite sentinels. Stretching for kilometers, these thousands of individual menhirs are arranged with a purpose that feels both immense and meticulously calculated. Walking among them is like traversing the circuit board of a forgotten computer, each stone a data point in a grand terrestrial equation. Researchers have long probed the logic behind their placement, searching for the mathematical codes that might explain why they are here. Some of the most compelling theories point to the sequences found in the very spacings between the stones. Certain rows appear to be grouped in counts that correspond to prime numbers, those indivisible figures that have fascinated mathematicians for millennia. Other arrangements, when analyzed, show progressions that echo the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two before it, a pattern intimately linked to the golden ratio and growth in nature. Could these alignments be a Neolithic textbook, using numerical sequences to encode knowledge of the heavens? The prominent archaeologist Alexander Thom, after surveying countless sites, proposed that the builders used a standardized unit of measurement, the megalithic yard, to plan these vast arrays. This suggests a shared geometric language across prehistoric Europe, a common toolkit for imposing order on the landscape. This order was deeply practical. Primary rows at Carnac are aligned with the rising and setting sun at the solstices, turning the entire complex into a colossal calendar. For an agricultural society, knowing the precise turning points of the seasons was a matter of survival, dictating when to plant and when to harvest. The stones provided a permanent, unwavering reference, a way to lock the cyclical time of the sun into the fixed geometry of the earth. This celestial connection is further hinted at in the subtle, graceful curvature of the Camarillo alignment. Its gentle arc does not follow the lay of the land, but instead seems to mirror the apparent motion of the moon across the sky, possibly even tracking its more complex 18.61-year cycle, known as a lunar standstill. The mathematical intent is not limited to the standing stones alone. Look to the great earthen mounds, the tumuli that dot the area. These burial monuments are not simple piles of earth. Their internal chambers and external shapes were often constructed using precise Pythagorean triangles, those 3, 4, 5 right-angled triangles that would later bear the Greek philosopher's name. This reveals a society with a sophisticated, hands-on understanding of geometry, applying it to create stable, sacred spaces for honoring their ancestors. Experts like Jean-Pierre Mohin see this complexity as a direct reflection of a highly organized Neolithic society, one capable of mobilizing labor and transmitting precise knowledge across generations. Was the entire site a communal project to harmonize human life with the cosmos, a permanent stone clock built by the entire community? Or was it a sacred landscape where the veneration of ancestors was intertwined with the practical science of tracking time? The sheer scale of Carnac suggests the answer is both. It represents the practical roots of ancient mathematics, born from the human need to navigate, to build, and to find meaning in the cycles of the world. This drive to use math as a tool for navigating vast, open spaces would soon guide another culture across the greatest expanse on Earth, the Pacific Ocean. Wade into the labyrinth of Madol, a city floating on a coral reef. Here, in the turquoise waters of Micronesia, over 90 artificial islets are linked by a network of tidal canals, each platform built from countless basalt logs. These colossal stones, some weighing many tons, were quarried from the other side of the island and transported across the sea, a feat demanding more than brute force. It required a deep, intuitive mathematics of logistics. The builders had to calculate the precise volume and weight of each prismatic column to determine buoyancy for rafting, and then orchestrate their assembly into stable, towering walls without mortar. This was a puzzle of three-dimensional geometry solved on a colossal scale. The entire city is a masterpiece of hydromathematics, where the canals are not just waterways but functioning components of a grand design. The builders harnessed the daily pulse of the tides, engineering the canal widths and depths to control water flow, perhaps to flush out waste or bring in nutrients, encoding the rhythms of the moon into the very plumbing of their capital. Researchers like Arthur Sachs have interpreted this impossible city as the ultimate expression of chiefly power, a place where controlling such complex engineering translated directly into political and spiritual authority. But the encodings run even deeper than the waterline. The geometric layout of the islets themselves appears to be a deliberate map. Some scholars propose the arrangement reflects social hierarchy, with specific islets for priests, artisans, and chiefs, creating a physical diagram of clan relationships. Others see a celestial blueprint where key structures align with important stars in constellations like Orion, vital for navigation across the vast Pacific. This cosmic connection is set in stone at the tomb of Madol, a massive enclosure within the complex. Its main entrance is perfectly oriented to capture the rising sun on the equinox, that moment of perfect balance between day and night, flooding the sacred space with light. Why would a society invest such immense effort in this aquatic metropolis? Was this intricate mathematics purely for survival, a way to manage resources and navigate the open ocean from a fixed point on the map? Or was it a way to build a microcosm of the universe, a floating world where human order mirrored the mathematical order of the cosmos? The silent, geometric precision of Madol stands as a powerful testament to innovation in isolation, proving that the drive to encode reality with numbers is a universal human impulse. This same impulse, as we will see, would soon find expression not in city plans, but in the intimate and vibrant world of art. The same mathematical principles that shaped monuments were woven into the very art that decorated them. In the sun-baked courtyards of ancient Mesopotamia, A Babylonian scribe might use the same wedge-shaped stylus to record a financial transaction and to carve a decorative border on a clay tablet. Their entire numerical system was based on the number 60, a choice that still echoes in our 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. This base 60 system was not an abstract concept confined to ledgers. It was visually embedded in their art and iconography, with repeating patterns of 60 or its multiples appearing in the designs on royal seals and temple friezes. The symbols for numbers and the symbols for gods and kings were part of the same visual language. This deep intertwining is even clearer in the intricate glyphs of the Maya. Their elaborate script was a fusion of art and advanced mathematics, where a beautifully drawn symbol for a jaguar could also represent a specific day in their sacred calendar, and a portrait of a ruler was often framed by numerical notations marking the exact date of his accession. For them, history, art, and the counting of time were a single, inseparable discipline. Art historian Penelope J.E. Davies might describe this as a world where aesthetic expression was fundamentally computational, where beauty was defined by numerical harmony. This cognitive link between pattern recognition and numerical thinking is something mathematician Keith Devlin explores, suggesting that the human brain is wired to see the logic in a repeating geometric pattern, which is itself a form of mathematical sequence made visible. Nowhere is this more breathtakingly evident than in the soaring architecture of Islamic art. In the intricate mosaics adorning a mosque wall, artists created infinite complexity without ever depicting a human or animal form. They achieved this through tessellation, the perfect, gap-free repetition of geometric shapes like stars, hexagons, and crosses. These are not just pretty designs, they are early, intuitive explorations of fractal geometry, where a single, complex pattern is repeated at ever smaller scales, creating a visual echo that pulls the eye toward a divine, unending infinity. The artist was not just a decorator, but a geometer, using compass and straightedge to map a vision of a perfectly ordered universe. This pursuit of balance through number was a global obsession. Consider the elegant curves of a Greek vase from the 5th century BCE. Its seemingly simple form is a masterclass in applied proportion. The height of the vase, the width of its belly, and the length of its neck were all carefully calculated relative to one another, creating a sense of flawless aesthetic equilibrium that pleases the eye on a deeply instinctual level. This same mathematical intent was chiseled into the marble of the Parthenon. Its famous sculptures and the overall dimensions of the temple itself were not created by artistic whim alone. The golden ratio, that ubiquitous constant of approximately 1.618, is found repeatedly in the proportions of the pediments and the spacing of the columns. The architects designed the entire structure with subtle curves and intentional irregularities to counteract optical illusions, a profound application of geometric psychology to ensure it looked perfectly straight and harmonious to the human eye. So, what does this tell us? It reveals that our ancestors did not see a boundary between the logic of mathematics and the emotion of art. They were two sides of the same coin, two different languages used to describe the same beautiful, ordered reality. This artistic dimension forces us to see mathematics not as a dry, academic exercise, but as a fundamentally creative force, a way of thinking that shaped humanity's most beautiful expressions. And to bring that beautiful, ordered reality into being, these artists and architects first needed a shared language of measurement, a single footstep, a handspan, the length of a forearm. These were the first and most personal units of measurement, born from the human body itself. Yet from these simple origins, ancient cultures developed systems of astonishing precision, creating a standardized language of length that allowed them to build in harmony across continents and centuries. The Egyptian royal cubit, for instance, was not a vague approximation. It was a meticulously defined unit, roughly 52.4 centimeters, derived from the length of a pharaoh's forearm from elbow to fingertip, and further subdivided into 7 palms of 4 digits each. This was not just a ruler, it was a fractal system built on whole numbers. This obsession with standardization is what made the impossible possible. When you measure the base of the Great Pyramid in royal cubits, you get a figure that, when multiplied by a specific factor, relates directly to the polar radius of the Earth. This is not a coincidence. It suggests the cubit was more than a construction tool. It was a deliberate fraction of the planet itself, a way to encode a global measurement into a local building block. This pattern of a universal unit repeats across the globe. In prehistoric Europe, engineer Alexander Thom surveyed hundreds of stone circles and proposed the existence of a megalithic yard, approximately 2.722 feet or 83 centimeters. This unit appears with remarkable consistency from Scotland to Brittany, suggesting that the builders of sites like Stonehenge and the Carnac alignments were using the same standardized measuring rod. Where did this unit come from? Some researchers, like John Mitchell, explored the possibility that it was derived from astronomical observations, perhaps a fraction of the distance the sun moves across the sky in a specific time, or related to the pendulum swings that mark a heartbeat of the Earth. Others see its origins in the human body, perhaps 2 of the long paces of a tall individual. The ratios between different units further reveal a sophisticated mathematical network. The Roman foot, for example, related to the older Greek foot in a simple ratio, and the Greek stadion was a set number of these feet. This created a seamless system for trade, taxation, and of course, construction, allowing engineering knowledge to flow freely across cultures. The tools for calibrating these standards were elegantly simple. A skilled artisan might use a knotted cord stretched taut to eliminate sag to measure out foundations. Or they might employ a shadow stick, a gnomon, to track the sun's path. By observing the length of the shortest shadow at noon on the summer solstice and the longest shadow at the winter solstice, they could derive a fundamental annual cycle, a natural standard against which their man-made rods could be periodically checked and corrected. This interplay between the celestial and the terrestrial ensured that their units remained true, season after season, generation after generation. Why would cultures with no apparent contact develop such precise and often interrelated systems of measurement? Does the widespread use of units derived from the human body simply reflect a universal human solution, or does it point to a deeper, shared ancient science, a lost understanding that the microcosm of the human form reflects the macrocosm of the planet? This drive for perfect measurement was the invisible foundation upon which every monument was raised, the silent mathematics that preceded the stone. And with this standardized language of length firmly established, these ancient scientists could turn their gaze fully skyward, applying the same precise principles to the ultimate challenge of mapping the heavens themselves. The mathematical genius of the Maya echoes across the stone plaza of Chichen Itza. Here, the Pyramid of Kukulkan is not a silent monument, but a dynamic, speaking calendar. Its design is a masterclass in encoded time, a structure that performs a celestial drama twice a year. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a shadow along the northern stairway, creating the undulating body of a feathered serpent that appears to slither down to meet its stone head at the base. This breathtaking phenomenon is no accident of light. It is the result of precise angular calculations, a permanent fusion of architecture and astronomy designed to mark the days of perfect balance. The pyramid's very steps are a numerical representation of the solar year. Each of its 4 stairways has 91 steps, and when you add the single platform at the summit, you reach a total of 365, one for each day. This is mathematics made visible, a counting system carved in stone for an entire civilization to witness. This precision extends to the very sounds the pyramid produces. Clap your hands at the base of the grand staircase, and the structure answers back with a chirping echo that eerily mimics the call of the sacred Quetzal bird. Acoustic engineers have studied this phenomenon, finding that the sound waves interact with the step terraces at specific, calculated angles. The time delay between the treads creates a series of reflections that our ears perceive as a bird's chirp. This suggests the Maya were not just visual geometers but masters of sonic mathematics, engineering their sacred spaces to produce sounds that held deep spiritual meaning. Was this auditory marvel intended for prophecy, a way for priests to summon the voice of a deity, or was it a public spectacle designed to awe and unify the community during grand ceremonies? The mathematical foundation for all this is the Mayan Videsimal, or base 20 number system. Unlike our base 10 system, theirs was built on 20s, a logical choice perhaps inspired by a full count of fingers and toes. This system is woven into the pyramid's proportions and the layout of the entire city. The Temple of the Warriors, for instance, is flanked by rows of carved columns grouped in specific numerical sets, their arrangements possibly reflecting this base 20 counting. The Maya also tracked the complex cycles of Venus with incredible accuracy, and the orientations of key structures at Chichen Itza align with the planet's rising and setting points on the horizon. Venus was associated with the god Kukulkan, and its appearances and disappearances were carefully plotted, integrated into a calendar system of astonishing complexity that interwove the solar year, the sacred calendar, and these planetary cycles. Even the Great Ball Court tells a story of cosmic mathematics. The game played here was far more than a sport. It was a ritual reenactment of the mythic battle between the forces of life and death, of light and darkness. The proportions of the immense playing alley, with its towering parallel walls and stone rings set high on the walls, may have been designed to reflect celestial pathways. Researchers like the late art historian Linda Scheel interpreted the iconography of the ballgame as a representation of the sun's journey through the underworld at night. The precise geometry of the court, the challenging angles required to propel the heavy rubber ball through the rings, all of this points to a culture that saw the universe itself as an ordered mathematical construct. Every bounce of the ball, every shadow on the pyramid, was part of a grand, calculable cosmic order. This profound integration of mathematics into daily life, ritual, and urban planning did not emerge from a vacuum. Its roots stretch back to even older centers of Mesoamerican thought. Deep in the humid jungles of Veracruz, the Olmec civilization laid the mathematical foundations for all of Mesoamerica. Their most iconic creations, the colossal stone heads, stand as silent guardians of an early geometric language. Carved from single blocks of basalt, each head possesses a unique personality, yet they share a common underlying structure. The proportions of the faces, from the brow line to the chin, and the width of the nostrils often align with the harmonious ratios of the golden mean, approximately 1.618. This suggests the sculptors were working from a shared canon of proportion, a visual mathematics that dictated balance and power in their art. The sheer scale of these heads, some weighing over 20 tons, also implies the use of a standardized unit of measurement. Researchers propose a unit based on the human form, perhaps a specific cubit, was used to plan these monoliths from quarry to final placement, ensuring consistency across generations. This was not random artistry, it was calculated expression. At their great ceremonial center of La Venta, This mathematical intent extends from individual sculptures to the entire landscape. The site's central axis is aligned with meticulous precision just 8 degrees east of true north. This was not an error, but a deliberate orientation, likely pointing toward the rising sun on a significant ceremonial day or tracking the path of a specific star. The entire complex becomes a vast clock face, with its earthen mounds and plazas positioned to mark celestial events. Archaeologist Michael D. Coe describes the Olmec as the mother culture of the region, the source from which later mathematical traditions among the Maya and others would flow. This foundational role is etched into the very earth. Consider the sophisticated drainage systems at the older Olmec site of San Lorenzo. The builders engineered stone troughs and channels using precise slope calculations, directing water flow through the city with a practical understanding of angles and gravity that prevented flooding and erosion. This practical mathematics of survival existed alongside a more enigmatic spiritual numeracy. At La Venta, buried offerings reveal a mind that thought in symbolic numbers. Caches of precious jade celts and figurines were arranged in specific groups, sometimes in counts that may correspond to calendar cycles or cosmological concepts. Some caches were laid out in clear geometric patterns, circles or lines, creating a sacred numerology in the soil. Even the basalt columns used in tomb construction were arranged to form pentagonal or hexagonal shapes, patterns that encode fundamental geometric relationships. Could these early encodings of number and shape have supported shamanic rituals, creating a physical diagram of a spiritual reality for the Olmec elite? Or were they the essential tools for urban planning, allowing a complex society to organize its labor, its ceremonies, and its very understanding of time? The Olmec world demonstrates that mathematics did not begin with abstract equations, but with the human need to measure, to build, to honor the gods, and to find order in a chaotic world. This same drive to find order through number was simultaneously flourishing on the other side of the globe, where ancient Asian cultures were developing their own unique and profound mathematical visions. The silent ranks of the terracotta army guard a secret written in formation and proportion. In the vast mausoleum complex of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, every soldier and weapon is part of a grand mathematical design, a stone codex for the afterlife. The army is not a chaotic crowd, but a meticulously ordered battle array. The soldiers are arranged in precise corridors and pits, forming geometric squares and rectangles that mirror the military tactics of the era. These formations are not just strategic, they are harmonic. The spacing between units, the depth of the ranks, and the ratios between different corps like infantry, chariots, and cavalry may reflect the same principles of balance found in nature and music. This suggests the emperor sought to create a perfectly ordered, eternally balanced military force. But how could artisans produce over 7,000 unique figures with such consistency? The answer lies in a system of modular construction. The bodies were created from a library of standardized molds for torsos, legs, arms, and heads. These prefabricated modules were then assembled, and the clay features hand-finished, allowing for infinite variation within a rigid geometric framework. It was an early form of mass production, governed by mathematical efficiency to achieve a spiritual goal. The entire necropolis is a masterwork of geomancy, the ancient practice of feng shui. The tomb mound is strategically positioned between Mount Lai and the Wai River, a location chosen through complex calculations to achieve perfect harmony between the earthly and the cosmic. Feng Shui is, at its heart, a form of applied mathematics, using angles, directions, and proportions to channel beneficial energy and ensure balance for the eternal resting place. This mathematical intent is forged into the army's very weapons. Excavations led by archaeologists like Zhu Weihong revealed that the bronze triggers of the crossbows were manufactured with interchangeable parts. Their components are so precisely measured and finished that any trigger could fit any crossbow in the entire army, a testament to an advanced system of standardized measurement and quality control that enabled logistical perfection. The encodings are believed to extend even to the stars. Historical accounts describe the ceiling of the main burial chamber as a map of the heavens, with pearls representing stars and constellations laid out in their correct celestial patterns. Below this cosmic dome, the accounts tell of miniature landscapes with flowing rivers of mercury simulating the great waterways of China. This incredible claim has been supported by modern soil tests around the tomb mound, which show unusually high concentrations of mercury. Were these mercury rivers a symbolic representation of the Milky Way, a liquid mirror of the celestial river above? This would make the entire tomb a scale model of the empire and the cosmos, a microcosm ruled by mathematical and astrological law. So, was this profound mathematics solely for the emperor's quest for immortality, a way to orchestrate his journey and rule in the next world? Or was it a powerful tool of imperial control, a physical manifestation of a unified state where even in death, every element, every soldier, was governed by a single, unyielding order? The Silent Army offers no easy answers, but its geometric precision speaks of a civilization that saw numbers as the essential framework for eternity, bridging the human realm and the heavens. This same drive to build a perfectly ordered society, reflected in precise urban planning, now draws our search to the grid-lined streets of a much older civilization. The streets of Mohenjo-Daro form a perfect grid, a geometric dream laid out in baked brick. In the Indus Valley, over 4,000 years ago, urban planners achieved a level of mathematical order that would not be seen again for millennia. The entire city was a masterwork of practical geometry, with main thoroughfares running precisely north-south and east-west, aligned to the cardinal directions. This was not merely for aesthetics. This solar alignment maximized sunlight and ventilation for the houses, a brilliant early application of environmental engineering that used the sun's path as a constant. Every brick in this vast city speaks of a standardized system. The ratio of their dimensions, length to width to thickness, was a consistent 4:2:1. This uniformity meant that a builder from Harappa, hundreds of kilometers away, could arrive in Mohenjo-Daro and understand the construction methods immediately. Archaeologist Jonathan Mark Kenoyer suggests this points to a powerful central authority, or perhaps a deeply ingrained cultural consensus that enforced these standards to create a cohesive civilization. This mathematical harmony extended beneath the streets to an intricate, covered drainage system. Each house had its own bathroom, with wastewater channeled through precisely sloped clay pipes that fed into larger municipal sewers. The angles of these slopes were calculated to ensure a constant, self-cleaning flow, a feat of civic engineering that protected public health on a massive scale. But what knowledge were they encoding in their architecture? Look at the Great Bath, a massive, watertight public pool located atop the citadel. Its precise proportions, a perfect rectangle with a consistent depth, may have held ritual significance. The ratios between its length, width, and depth could reflect a sacred geometry, a space designed for purification ceremonies that required mathematical perfection to be spiritually effective. This urban planning was also a defense against chaos. The entire city was built on a massive, man-made platform of mud brick, elevating it above the floodplain of the mighty Indus River. The height of this foundation was a calculated risk, an understanding of river hydrology and volume that protected the city for centuries. Even the smallest artifacts reveal a numerical mind. The stone seals used for stamping trade goods are covered with intricate geometric patterns, grids, and spirals. These are not random decorations. They may have encoded ownership, quantities, or even philosophical concepts, a visual shorthand for a society fluent in the language of shape and number. Their system of weights based on a binary multiples is equally brilliant. The smallest unit doubled to create a perfectly graduated series, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. This simple, powerful system would have facilitated fair trade across the entire region, from the coast to the highlands. It prompts a profound question. Did this pervasive, unifying mathematics promote a form of social equality, giving every citizen access to the same clean water, the same standardized housing, and the same fair weights in the market? Or did the very need for such rigid control ultimately reinforce a hierarchy, with a small, literate elite designing a system that governed every aspect of daily life? The silent, geometric cities of the Indus Valley stand as a testament to a different kind of mathematical genius, one focused not on celestial pyramids, but on creating a perfect, functional order for the living. This urban sophistication finds a clear parallel in other great river civilizations, yet it also forces us to reconsider a long-held assumption. What mathematical wisdom could possibly emerge from cultures without cities, from the nomadic peoples who moved with the seasons? Yet the most profound mathematics left no monuments at all. Across vast continents, nomadic cultures developed intricate systems of calculation and geometry that were carried not in stone, but in memory, in song, and in the patterns of daily life. For the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, the entire continent was mapped through songlines, a vast, interconnected web of pathways described in rhythmic cycles and melodic phrases. These were not merely songs, they were sophisticated navigational databases. The precise rhythms and the number of repetitions in a verse could encode the distance to the next waterhole, the location of a specific rock formation, or the turning point of a seasonal trail. The melodies themselves were a form of lived mathematics, a way of counting steps and recalling landscapes through auditory patterns that could be passed down perfectly for generations. The songlines often extended to the sky, weaving terrestrial geography with the positions of stars, creating a unified, sung map of the cosmos under which they traveled. Similarly, the Navajo people of North America wove complex mathematical principles directly into their textiles. The intricate designs on a blanket are far more than decoration. They are expressions of symmetry groups and geometric sequences. Weavers work from the center outward, maintaining perfect bilateral symmetry without any physical pattern to follow, a mental feat of spatial reasoning and proportional thinking. Anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss noted the abstract, almost philosophical geometry inherent in such indigenous art, calling it the science of the concrete. This was mathematics embodied in practice, a way of thinking with the hands. For recording information, the Inca of South America developed the quipu, a complex system of knotted cords. A quipu was a portable, tactile ledger. The type of knot, its position on the string, the color of the cord, and the spin and ply of the yarn all held specific meanings. Researchers like Gary Urton have demonstrated that this was a logical, base 10 system where knots in different positions represented units, tens, hundreds, and beyond. These devices could record census data, tribute obligations, and even narrative histories, proving that a written numerical language does not require a flat surface, only a shared logic. This same sophisticated mental math guided Polynesian voyagers across the open Pacific. navigating thousands of kilometers of trackless ocean required an incredible internal calculator. They memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of stars, understood the subtle patterns of ocean swells refracted by distant islands, and could track their position by observing the flight paths of birds. This was a dynamic, applied mathematics of angles, vectors, and dead reckoning, all held in the mind and tested against the horizon. This knowledge was preserved in charts and star compasses, a living library for wayfinding. The Lakota people, too, encoded their understanding of the heavens on portable media, etching star maps onto bison hides. These maps were not simple pictures of constellations. They were functional charts that correlated celestial movements with seasonal changes on the plains, essential for predicting bison migrations and planning communal movements. So, what does this tell us about the nature of mathematics itself? These cultures achieved a profound synthesis of number, form, and meaning without ever constructing a permanent edifice. Their math was fluid, adaptable, and deeply integrated with survival and spirituality. It challenges our modern inclination to equate mathematical achievement with monumental architecture. The patterns in a woven blanket, the knots on a string, the rhythm of a song, these were all valid and powerful forms of encoding a universal human understanding of order, a mathematics that walked on two legs and slept under the stars. This realization that the language of numbers is as diverse as human culture itself brings us to the final, unifying question. What common thread connects the pyramid builder and the Polynesian navigator, the stone circle engineer and the nomadic weaver? From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Cambodia, a shared mathematical language echoes through the stones. Cultures that could not possibly have met were speaking in the same numerical tongue, using constants like pi and the golden ratio as their universal alphabet. This is not a story of a single discovery, but of a pattern that emerged again and again across the globe. Why would the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan and the Great Pyramid of Giza both encode the solar year in their dimensions? How could the precise Pythagorean triangles of Stonehenge appear independently in the megalithic tombs of Europe and the sacred geometry of Hindu temples? Historian of mathematics George Geverghese Joseph argues for a plurality of mathematical discovery, suggesting that the human mind, when faced with the same fundamental problems of time, space, and construction, will often arrive at similar solutions. It is a cognitive convergence, a natural outcome of observing the same stars and the same cycles of nature. The golden ratio, for instance, appears in the seed heads of flowers and the spiral of shells, so it is little wonder that architects from different continents, seeking a naturally pleasing proportion, would incorporate it into their designs. Yet the variations are just as telling. In the stone circles of Europe, the sun cycle was paramount for agricultural survival, dictating the precise alignments for solstices. Meanwhile, in the island empires of Southeast Asia, the moon's rhythm governed the tides that were the lifeblood of their seafaring culture, leading to monuments calibrated for lunar standstills. Comparative mythologist Joseph Campbell saw in these patterns a shared symbolic language, where the circle represented the cosmos, the pyramid the world mountain, and the square the ordered earth. These were not just architectural choices, they were profound statements about humanity's place in the universe. The materials themselves shaped the message. The Egyptians had limitless stone, allowing for permanence and precision on a colossal scale. The Maya carved their calculus into elaborate stucco facades, while the builders of Great Zimbabwe used dry stone walling to create complex curves that swayed with the land. And we cannot dismiss the slow, patient pathways of trade. Along the Silk Road or across the Indian Ocean, ideas could travel with merchants, carried not as formal theorems, but as practical knowledge, a better way to align a temple or measure a field. A trader might share a story about a far-off city where a pyramid casts a serpent shadow, and that single seed could inspire a local adaptation, a new expression of an ancient, intuitive truth. So, does this recurring pattern point to a universal human intuition for mathematics, a hardwired ability to recognize the geometry of our world? The evidence carved across the planet suggests that we are all born with an innate sense of number and form, a latent knowledge waiting to be awakened by the challenges of survival and the wonder of the stars. This shared legacy of calculation, from the nomadic songline to the royal cubit, reveals a fundamental unity in the human quest for order. The silent calculations behind these stone masterpieces required tools of equal genius. Long before digital computers, ancient cultures engineered sophisticated devices to model the universe and execute complex mathematics. The Babylonians, masters of base 60 arithmetic, used an early abacus with grooves in the sand or on a wooden board, moving pebbles to represent different place values. This simple yet powerful system allowed them to perform the massive calculations needed for astronomy and city planning, translating abstract numbers into physical movement. The principle of place value, where a digit's position determines its worth, was made tangible, a fundamental concept that would underpin all future computation. This was mathematics you could touch. Far more complex was the Greek Antikythera mechanism, a bronze gearwork computer recovered from an ancient shipwreck. Through painstaking analysis, historians of technology like Derek J. Dusola Price revealed it as an intricate analog predictor of celestial events. Its system of interlocking bronze gears with precisely calculated ratios could model the irregular motions of the moon, predict solar eclipses, and even track the cycles of the Olympic Games. Turning a simple hand crank would set dozens of gears in motion, displaying the positions of the sun, moon, and known planets on a series of dials. This was not merely a clock, but a portable simulation of the cosmos, its gear teeth encoding an advanced understanding of astronomical cycles and mechanical mathematics. The very existence of such a device implies a long history of technological development that has since been lost to time. For the precise alignment of monuments, other tools were essential. The astrolabe, perfected in the Islamic world, was a handheld observatory made of brass. By sighting a star through its movable pointer and reading the scale on its engraved plate, a user could determine their latitude, tell the time at night, or calculate the height of a mountain. Its design was a masterpiece of applied geometry and stereographic projection, mapping the three-dimensional celestial sphere onto a two-dimensional disk. The angles measured with such an instrument could have directly informed the cardinal alignments of temples or the slope angles of pyramids, turning celestial observations into architectural blueprints. Even the humble sundial relied on deep geometric insight. Its gnomon, the part that casts the shadow, had to be angled precisely according to the user's latitude, and the hour lines on its face were not evenly spaced but calculated using spherical trigonometry. Every sundial was a local model of the Earth's relationship to the sun, a permanent calculator of solar time. Consider the Inca, who built their earthquake-resistant walls with such perfection. While no blueprints survive, some researchers theorize that the complex knot patterns of their quipu cords may have recorded more than just census data or stories. These intricate arrays of strings, with their varying knot types, positions, and colors, could have served as architectural records, encoding dimensions, ratios, and perhaps even construction sequences for their master stonemasons. The loss of so many of these technologies is a profound silence in our historical record. How many other brilliant devices, crafted from wood or perishable materials, have simply returned to the earth, taking their mathematical secrets with them? This tool-based perspective shifts our focus from the monuments themselves to the vibrant, calculating minds that conceived them. It reveals a world where innovation in mathematics was driven by practical need and spiritual yearning, where the turn of a gear or the shadow on a dial could capture the grand rhythm of the cosmos. The sheer precision of the pyramids and the global echoes of pi and phi inevitably lead to a compelling and controversial question. Could these mathematical masterpieces be the legacy of a civilization lost to time, or perhaps even visitors from beyond our world? This theory, popularized by thinkers like Erich von Däniken, suggests that the technological leaps required to build these structures were simply too great for the societies we know from the archaeological record. The argument points to the mind-boggling accuracy of the Great Pyramid's alignments and the multi-ton stonework at sites like Pumapunku, feats that some believe surpass the known capabilities of copper tools and human labor alone. Proponents like Graham Hancock point to the similarities in astronomical encodings between cultures separated by oceans, asking if this points not to independent discovery, but to a shared, forgotten teacher from an advanced ancient society, a potential Atlantis whose knowledge was dispersed by a global cataclysm. They sometimes reference enigmatic artifacts like the Peary Rise map, which appears to show the coastline of Antarctica without its ice, as potential evidence of such a lost seafaring civilization. Author Robert Bovell's work on the correlation between the Giza pyramids and the stars of Orion's belt is often cited as a complex piece of celestial knowledge that seems to appear fully formed. The core of this idea is a powerful one, that human history is far older and more mysterious than our textbooks allow. Yet mainstream archaeology offers a powerful counter-narrative grounded in decades of excavation. Scholars like Kenneth Feder argue that there is no concrete evidence, no layer of pottery or tools, that places an advanced global civilization in the deep past. The achievements at Giza, Teotihuacan, and Stonehenge, they contend, are monuments to human ingenuity, not proof of external help. They see a clear, gradual accumulation of knowledge, where each generation built upon the trial and error of the last. The perfect right angles at Göbekli Tepe show an early, intuitive grasp of geometry that evolved over millennia into the precise calculations of the Egyptians. The similarities in mathematical constants across cultures are explained not by a common teacher, but by a common reality, the human mind independently recognizing the same harmonious ratios present in the natural world. The Peary Rise map, upon closer examination, can be interpreted as a composite of known Portuguese charts of the time, its accuracy a matter of scholarly debate. The true lesson may lie in the power of these ideas to capture our imagination. They challenge us to look at the ancient world not as a static timeline, but as a place of profound and possibly unanswered questions. They force us to confront our own assumptions about the capabilities of our ancestors. So how do we move beyond speculation? The search for answers is now turning to the stones themselves, using the tools of modern science to read the mathematical codes with a clarity never before possible. The stones are finally beginning to speak, not through whispers, but through the precise language of laser light and radio waves. Modern science is now our greatest ally in decoding the mathematical genius of the ancient world, using non-invasive technologies that see through earth and stone to verify the intentional designs we have long suspected. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy into the soil, mapping buried foundations and hidden chambers without ever lifting a shovel. This technology has revealed vast, unseen networks of buildings and roads around known sites, showing that the mathematical order of a place often extended far beyond its visible core. In Cambodia, LiDAR scanning from aircraft has pierced the dense jungle canopy to expose the true scale of Angkor. The data revealed an immense urban grid of temples, canals, and roads arranged with geometric precision over an area far larger than anyone imagined. The city's layout, with its concentric squares and radial avenues, now appears as a grand, fractal pattern etched into the landscape, confirming the Khmer Empire's mastery of sacred geometry on a metropolitan scale. This is not just discovery, it is revelation, showing us that the codes are woven into the very fabric of their cities. Digital archaeology allows us to test theories with a new level of certainty. Experts like Sarah Parkak use satellite imagery to identify subtle traces of ancient structures, while initiatives like the SciArc project create breathtakingly accurate three-dimensional digital models of heritage sites. Using 3D laser scanning, technicians can capture every contour of a monument, recording millions of data points to create a perfect digital twin. This process has been used at Stonehenge, where the scans revealed subtle tool marks and carvings invisible to the naked eye. The analysis showed that the stones were not merely rough-hewn, but were shaped with a sophisticated understanding of stoneworking, their surfaces dressed to precise angles that would have required advanced geometric planning. With this digital model in hand, researchers can run endless simulations. They can input ancient star charts into astronomical software and watch as the sun and moon align with the stones on a computer screen, confirming that these alignments were not fortunate accidents but the result of meticulous, long-term observation. This digital toolkit allows us to ask the stones direct questions and receive unambiguous answers. Perhaps the most powerful tool in this new arsenal is statistical analysis. How can we be sure that a pattern is intentional and not just a random coincidence of nature? This is where mathematics itself provides the key. By applying rigorous statistical tests to the dimensions and orientations of a site, researchers can calculate the probability that a particular alignment or ratio occurred by chance. When the probability is vanishingly small, the case for intentional encoding becomes overwhelming. Fractal analysis takes this a step further, examining the self-similar patterns that repeat at different scales within a structure. The nested galleries of Angkor Wat or the recursive patterns in Islamic tilework can be analyzed by computer algorithms, which confirm that these are not just aesthetically pleasing designs but mathematically defined systems, consistent with a deep understanding of infinite complexity. These methods move us from speculation into the realm of demonstrable evidence, grounding the mysteries of the past in the hard logic of the present. So what does this new era of discovery mean for our understanding of human history? As these non-invasive technologies become ever more powerful, what hidden libraries of mathematical knowledge currently buried beneath jungle or desert are waiting for their moment to be read? This scientific verification does not diminish the wonder of these sites, it amplifies it, revealing a legacy of calculation that is far more profound and widespread than we ever dreamed. A story written in a universal language we are only now learning to translate with perfect clarity. These ancient mathematical whispers hold a vital lesson for our modern world, a reminder that we have fragmented knowledge into isolated subjects. The builders of these monuments saw no such division. For them, mathematics was the vibrant thread weaving together art, science, and the sacred. This integrated approach is precisely what modern educators like Joe Bowler champion, showing that students learn math more deeply when they see it as a creative, living language rather than a set of abstract rules. The pyramids and temples are the ultimate proof of this principle, demonstrating that the most profound human achievements spring from a mind that sees the world as a connected whole. We can rediscover this wisdom in our own lives, whether by appreciating the geometry in a piece of music or understanding the physics behind a beautiful bridge. The endurance of these structures offers a masterclass in sustainability. The Incas built cities that sway with earthquakes, and the Indus Valley civilization engineered self-cleaning water systems. These are not relics of a primitive past, but brilliant solutions to challenges we still face today. Historian James Burke often explores how past innovations inform the present, and here the connection is direct. We are now relearning the value of passive solar design, a technique the Anasazi used in their cliff dwellings centuries ago to reduce our energy needs. The ancient problem of managing scarce resources on Easter Island finds a haunting parallel in our current global climate crisis, urging us to think in the long term, to build for resilience rather than just for the moment. This legacy also reshapes how we view technology itself. The intricate fractal patterns in Islamic art, which represented infinite divine complexity, are now the foundation of the algorithms that generate realistic computer graphics and simulate natural phenomena. A concept born from spiritual contemplation now drives cutting-edge digital innovation. The lesson is clear: the most powerful applications of math often emerge from a place of wonder and a desire to understand the deep patterns of existence. What if we approached our own modern challenges, from urban planning to resource management, with this ancient, integrated mindset? What if we saw mathematics not as a cold calculation, but as a creative partner in building a world that is both functional and beautiful, a world that could, like the great monuments, endure for millennia to come? This enduring human drive to find meaning through number is not merely a historical curiosity. It is a vital part of our shared cultural heritage, a story that continues to be written. These silent mathematical languages form a bridge across time, connecting cultures that never met. When we trace the thread of pi from Giza to the Pyramid of the Sun, or follow the golden ratio from Angkor Wat to the proportions of a Moai, we are not just studying architecture. We are participating in a global conversation, one that profoundly challenges the traditional, Eurocentric narrative of mathematical history. This story did not begin in Greece and travel westward in a straight line. It is a rich, interconnected tapestry woven from contributions across the entire world. Consider the Indian subcontinent, where brilliant mathematicians like Brahmagupta in the 7th century formally defined the concept of zero and established the rules for its use in calculation. This was not merely the invention of a number, it was the birth of a revolutionary idea that would become the cornerstone of modern computing and higher mathematics. This knowledge traveled, carried by traders and scholars along silk and spice routes, eventually reaching the Islamic world. There, in centers of learning like Baghdad's House of Wisdom, scholars like Al-Khwarizmi systematized the solving of equations in his foundational work, Hisab al-Jabr wal Muqabala, giving the world the word algebra. These were not isolated flashes of genius, but links in a continuous, global chain of discovery. The monuments themselves are the ultimate testament to this shared heritage. A visitor from Europe standing before the celestial geometry of the great Zimbabwe enclosure, or a traveler from Asia contemplating the hydraulic mathematics of Mohenjo-Daro's drains, is engaging in a form of cross-cultural dialogue facilitated by numbers. This dialogue, fostered by global tourism, builds a deeper appreciation for the sophistication of diverse civilizations. Yet this shared legacy is fragile. These sites face relentless threats from looting, uncontrolled urban development, and the accelerating impacts of climate change. Rising sea levels endanger coastal sites like Madol, while increased rainfall and desertification threaten ancient stonework from Cambodia to Peru. The ethical imperative to preserve them is a global responsibility. As UNESCO officials often stress, safeguarding this heritage is not about freezing these places in time, but about protecting the living stories they tell, the mathematical wisdom they encode for all humanity. This is not merely an archaeological task, it is an act of reconciliation. The collaborative international efforts to restore damaged sites, even in the face of great loss as with the Bamiyan Buddhas, demonstrate how a shared commitment to cultural heritage can build bridges between nations and communities. It is a powerful reminder that these mathematical codes belong to no single nation, but to human history itself. They are a tool for rebuilding identity and fostering mutual respect. So how do we honor this dazzling diversity of thought today? We begin by broadening our own understanding, by recognizing that the path of human knowledge was never a single road, but a vast, interconnected web of rivers, each culture contributing its own essential current to the whole. This perspective enriches our own place in the human story, inviting a personal reflection on how we, too, can become stewards of this incredible, shared inheritance. Your own home is a living archive of ancient geometry. The simple act of measuring the length and width of a room can reveal a hidden mathematical story. Take a tape measure and find the ratio between these two dimensions. You might be surprised to discover that many spaces, from the classic rectangle of a picture frame to the layout of a book, naturally gravitate toward the golden ratio, that harmonious proportion of approximately 1.618. This is not an accident of modern design, but a continuation of an aesthetic principle our ancestors understood intuitively, a shape that the human brain finds inherently pleasing and balanced. Step outside on a sunny day and you can become your own celestial observer. Place a stick vertically in the ground and mark the tip of its shadow throughout the day. The path those marks trace is a miniature reenactment of the solar alignments engineered at Stonehenge and the Pyramid of Kukulkan. You are tracking the sun's arc, using the same geometric principles ancient cultures employed to build their calendars and orient their temples. This simple activity connects you directly to a timeless human endeavor, the quest to understand our place in the cosmic order by reading the light. Psychologist Keith Devlin refers to this as the math instinct, a fundamental human capacity to recognize patterns and spatial relationships. When we consciously notice the spiral of a pine cone echoing the Fibonacci sequence or the hexagonal perfection of a honeycomb, we are not just observing nature, we are engaging in a form of mindfulness. This practice of seeking order can be profoundly calming, a way to find stability in a chaotic world by recognizing the underlying mathematical rhythms that govern everything from the growth of plants to the structure of galaxies. This awareness transforms a walk in the park into a treasure hunt for fractal patterns in the branches of a tree or the recursive shapes of a fern. Listen closely to your favorite piece of music. The rhythmic patterns, the time signatures, and the harmonic intervals between notes are all expressions of mathematical relationships. The beat of a drum is a counting system, the structure of a symphony a complex equation in sound. Even the planning of a garden with its symmetries, pathways, and repeating clusters of flowers is an act of applied geometry, a personal sanctuary built on the same principles of proportion that guided the architects of great Zimbabwe. What mathematical patterns have you begun to notice in your own daily life? Perhaps it is the angle of sunlight through your window at a specific hour, or the repeating motif in a piece of fabric. Sharing these small discoveries in the comments creates a community of modern-day decoders, each of us adding a new line to this ongoing human story. This personal journey of recognition is the final, essential step in understanding the legacy of the ancient builders, for it bridges the gap between their monumental world and our own, revealing that the language of numbers was never meant to be confined to stone, but to be lived and felt as a fundamental part of our existence. This legacy of calculation connects us across millennia, a silent conversation between our modern minds and the ancient architects who saw numbers as the fabric of existence. From the pyramids of Egypt to the floating city of Madol, we have traced a universal language of pi and phi, of solstice alignments and the megalithic yard. These were not accidental patterns, they were deliberate encodings, a brilliant fusion of spiritual reverence and practical necessity, preserving celestial knowledge in stone and earth. Our ancestors demonstrated a sophistication that continuously reshapes our understanding of their world, proving that the drive to measure, to calculate, and to harmonize with the cosmos is a fundamental thread in the human story. These monuments challenge us to see mathematics not as a dry academic subject, but as a lived and creative force, the original interdisciplinary study that wove together art, science, and a deep connection to the universe. This shared heritage invites you to find these intersections in your own life. Notice the geometry in a leaf's veins, the rhythm in your favorite song, or the angle of sunlight through your window. Each is a small echo of that grand, ancient code. I would love to hear which monument's mathematical secret resonated